Welcome to Bridge by Words, the podcast where aspiring leaders connect with experienced politicians, gaining insights and inspiration for their own political journeys. Today I'm here with Aaron Violi, the member for Casey, and the Liberal Party whip.
Yes, Chief Opposition Whip.
Yes, which I'd love for us to talk about as well.
Absolutely.
At some point. So, what's involved, what's that position, or, it's just recently given to you?
Just recently with the new leadership. So it's about six to 8 weeks into the role.
Yeah.
So, very happy to share. It's one of those interesting roles that it's more internal focused. So it's not widely known or talked about outside of sort of the political system. So, it'd be good to share a bit more about that.
Yeah. Well, maybe we start with that a little bit.
Start with that, absolutely.
Yeah, what's that like? Because it's, I don't know if Labor has one or not.
They do. Yeah, both sides have a
because I know
whip.
that the Liberal Party is a bit more free in, it's not such a uniform. Not in that sense. I'm not trying to be critical. Or anything. You know what I mean? It's a very diverse group of ideas.
Yeah, correct.
Within the Liberal Party.
And so one of the, I'll start there and build into the whip's role. And one of the unique aspects of our political party, the Liberal Party and the Nationals and the coalition broadly, is that we value the individual and their sort of responsibility, but also their ability to have their own ideas. So our backbench, if you're a Liberal Party or a Nationals backbencher, you're not bound to vote how we vote as a party. You've got the ability to cross the floor and stay within our party. So you don't need, there's a process you follow. You talk to the party room, you reserve your right on a bill, and you can cross the floor if you so choose, and you don't have to leave the party. Labor, on the other hand, as you mentioned, Ethan, have a more collectivist model. So if you cross the floor on a piece of legislation or anything against the party, you're exiled and literally kicked out of the party. And the most recent example is Senator Fatima Payman. She crossed the floor last term and was forced to resign. We had members, the former member for Bass, Bridget Archer, crossed the floor 5 or 6 times, and there's no sort of formal repercussions. So that's one of the reasons, to be honest, that drew me to the Liberal Party, that idea of
being liberal
and having your own thoughts and not being told what to think or what to do. We're still part of a team and we still work together, and but having that sort of freedom is valued by our backbench. It's really important, and we're working to make sure we can harness the skills of our backbench. But in essence, there's two key important functions for the whip and the whip's team, and the first is working. So the government there's a chief government whip, and then there's the chief opposition whip, and then 2 others, a whip and then a deputy whip. And so both parties of government have 3 people who essentially, during parliamentary sitting weeks, are responsible for making sure that the parliament runs, in the sense that when a piece of legislation comes up, there needs to be people to speak at all times. And if there's no one to speak, that's the end of the debate. Yeah. So there's a sort of administrative task around making sure that people are where they need to be at the right time so that the parliament can continue. And then there is the element where the name came from, the discipline around when there's a division and there's a vote, making sure that your people are in the House and they're voting as they should be in terms of the party position, noting they've got that freedom to abstain or cross the floor.
Yeah, okay. So what's some of the reality examples of putting this into action? I guess you've only got the past week and a half to do it. But,
yes.
Or 6 weeks, like you said.
6, yeah.
Because there's time leading up to Parliament opening.
Correct.
So is there any examples so far you've had to, or to try and rally people to speak? Because I know there's that time before question time, whatever, where there is, amendments or bills or something brought forward.
Correct, yes.
And it is that back and forth or multiple voices speaking on it. What's that like, trying to get enough people to speak on a certain thing?
And it depends. There's tactics around that as well. So on some bills, you might want to, as we call it, talk it out. So you might want to have a lot of people, and then you're sort of ringing around saying, hey, can you come and speak on this bill? We want to talk it out. Other bills, you might want to shorten it. So you might say to people, look, we don't actually want people to speak on this. And other bills, you're just happy for it to process at its organic pace. So that's understanding. But what we normally do when a piece of legislation comes up, those MPs that would like to speak on it, put their name on a list, and we add them onto the list. And then it's just coordination between ourselves and the government, because traditionally it goes one each. So you have a government speaker, then you'll have an opposition or a non-government, and then you rotate. But you've got to make sure that as one person finishes, the next person's ready to stand up. Because if, for example, someone finishes and there's no one else to speak, then
the speaker will just move on.
Well, the question's put. So that means that you then have to have the vote, or it goes through the House, and that's the end of the legislation. So there could, if there's a mix-up, there could be 20 more people in the parliament that want to speak, but they lose the opportunity if either side's not organised. So there's a collaborative nature to try. It's democracy, and there's 150 members in the new parliament, 151 in the previous, that are representing their communities, and they want the opportunity to be able to talk on their behalf. So there's the way I look at it, in terms of the speaking list, there's that real obligation to democracy and also to all the members to give them the opportunity to be their community's voice in Parliament. And that's a really important part of it. And then the other part is the voting part. So making sure that the members of the coalition know that, look, there's a division coming up. Because once the bells ring, they've got 4 minutes to be in there. So you've got to make sure.
I've recently did a tour, and it's the amount of, you've got to have good running shoes on.
You do.
If you're in the wrong part of Parliament House, it's a race.
It is a race, yeah. And so we try and, assist and sort of say, look, it's likely some days you can go with no divisions, others you can have quite a few depending on what's happening. So we keep the members updated and say, look, we think there could be divisions at these times. Make sure you're ready. And then a few other administrative parts. And then the other important part of the whip's role is very much that pastoral care and building relationships with colleagues and making sure that you're supporting them, because we're all politicians. However, we're also people with our own lives, our own challenges, and we're spending a lot of time away from home. And for some people, that's away from young families, and their families are going through challenging situations. So there is a relationship and personal support part to the whip's role as well, which is really important.
Try to be that family away from home.
Yeah, and just help people out and understand what they're going through and what we can do to support them if there is any issues.
A very bridging role.
Yes, yes.
All right. Yeah, I just wanted to touch base on that because it's a new appointment and it seems exciting and stressful at times, maybe. Who knows yet?
Yeah, no, it is. I mean, it is stressful in the sense you've got a big responsibility to make sure the Parliament's continuing. So it's very, very intense when you're in Parliament, but really enjoying it and really honoured, to be honest. I'm the youngest Chief Whip in 50 years, so to get the role at a relatively young age is quite exciting.
Right?
No. I wish. I wish I wish I was 28 again. It's the clock has gone very quickly. It gets us all.
It catches up. But no, okay. Yeah, you are pretty young, yeah.
Yeah. So traditionally, it's probably gone to a bit of an older member of Parliament. So
the Liberal Party, for example,
the Liberal Party, and on the more, I shouldn't say older, I should say more experienced member of because it is a very technical role. So you need to know what's happening in Parliament, what the different bills are. So I'm fortunate. I'm a big believer in any role you do, you should seek to understand what's happening and why you're doing something. I'm not big on just doing something because, you've got to be here because of this. I've always had a curiosity to go, well, why do we need to be there?
Open up the hood, work out why it's running.
For two reasons. One, I like to know what I'm doing, but also I figure if I know it, maybe you can help improve, particularly in my previous background in the business world. So I did spend a lot of time in the first term in Parliament wanting to understand, well, what's this vote or what's this speech? Why are we doing this at this time? So
educating yourself.
Educating myself on Parliament, because we spend a lot of time, half the year roughly, in Parliament. So you should understand what's happening and when.
How it works. And on that, with being a younger member of Parliament, do you notice there's a shift or a change, or it's like a handover in some aspects or something to our generation?
Yeah, absolutely.
And it'll be a bit more representative of, because I know there's the whole stigma of too many old people in power.
Yeah.
The tides are changing, or what are your thoughts? Good or better, or what?
I think good. Times are changing. I mean, it's a relative term. Good, not so good as a Liberal, because the changes are going towards the Labor Party at the moment. But I mean, it's like any organisation or any structure, when there's new people coming in, they're generally younger and changing perspectives. So it does seem,
I guess, more on that perspective change. Is that sort of a positive thing to bring towards Parliament?
I believe so. I think having a diversity of perspective in any organisation is important, and in Parliament it's really important. It's understanding there's a real balance of having a younger perspective is valuable because you've grown up in a different generation, different values, and you've experienced different world events in your younger years. So that shapes who
especially
you are.
Nows,
and nows, absolutely. So that's important. And, the counterbalance is, I look at now I'm 40 and I look back at the person I was at 30 and the person I was at 20, and I'm a very different same person, but I'm very different. I've experienced different things. I've learned, I've grown, and I've developed. So having some life experience changes your perspective as well. So it's getting the balance of, bringing a younger perspective is good, but obviously as you learn more, you change your perspective sometimes.
Yeah. Well, that's the good thing, I guess. It's like there is that transitional. It's not like an overnight.
No.
Yeah. All right, get out of here, old boys. Yeah.
Yeah, correct.
Go back a bit.
Yes.
So before politics, what were we up to? What was life like? What did a normal day look like for you?
Yeah, well, interesting. Interesting times. I got pre-selected in 2021, so in the middle of COVID. So it was we didn't really have what we used to call normal days back then. But prior to politics, I'd spent 15 years working in business, in and with small business, which is something I've talked about a lot in my time as a member of Parliament. So I started my career at a local food manufacturer here in Lilydale, actually, called Yarra Valley Snack Foods. Spent about 7 or 8 years there, and then went to work for Mars Australia and spent 3 or 4 years at Mars. And then I was at a tech startup. So I spent 3 years managing Asia Pacific and partnerships for a Canadian-based tech startup called Ritual. So that was a really, really important time in my career to move out of FMCG and food and diversify, which really opened up a real awakening to the tech sector and to the digital economy. And that's one of the passions that I've taken into politics, this real opportunity to help grow the digital economy, and understanding that if we've got a strong tech sector, it's not about replacing jobs. It's about helping, tradies here in Casey do their paperwork quicker so they can spend more time with their family. We've got a lot of farmers. They can use technology to, check crops and make sure they're being getting the right water and those kind of things. So using technology to drive productivity.
Not just on that as well. I love road trips in this country, and growing up with my dad in Queensland, always going up and down the middle of Emerald and Warwick and all that. I guess the technologies on that front, that could be better to connect the rural regions a bit better, because I feel like they get a little left behind.
It's one of the challenges we face in this country. The regions.
So I guess with your experience on that front, working for this tech startup and what they do, how do you think that could be implemented, or what's your opinion on that? Yeah,
well, I think there's huge opportunities to support regional areas. And I guess the most obvious one is, telehealth and examples like that. How do we make sure that if you're in a regional remote community, you can get good access to medical help and medical support? And the first part is if you can do a telehealth with a GP or with a specialist and get diagnosed earlier, then you can get your treatments earlier. Obviously, it's hard. You still got to travel for the treatment, whatever it is. But how can we use those kind of things to help regional and remote communities and make sure they've got that access as well? I mean, it's funny you talk about road trips. I mean, one of the big technology changes that we've kind of all taken for granted now is Google Maps, and which is again through GPS. And ironically,
there's lots of parts of this country where you're having to switch SIMs out to try and what tower's nearby, Optus or Telstra, or
can I see to use the maps? And I grew up in a generation where we used the Melways, and you're turning it around now. You plug it in and you can get anywhere. So good example of AI being used for over a decade to help tradies get around, help delivery drivers, but just help families get to the events they want to get to a lot quicker.
I think I've interrupted you there. You were about to say something about the road trips or something, or that was it?
Oh, just that idea. That's Google Maps is an example of technology just improving our lives. It's improved the experience, that if you want to go somewhere, you put it in instead of having to use the maps. But it helps businesses when they need to deliver products, deliver goods. And so that's just a really good example of how do we drive technological innovation to help families, help community groups, help businesses be more productive, because then that unlocks so many benefits for the community. And I've got a fundamental belief, if the country's strong, then the community here in Casey is going to be strong as well. So how we can get the settings right at a national level will help us at a local level as well.
Was that like on that belief, did that make the decision easy rather than going through council or state, or like why federal for you?
Yeah, it's a very important question. And I think you find that there's two types of politicians as a general comment. Some that are happy, and there was a first speech this week, David Batt, new member for Hinckley, he'd actually served at council level, at state level, and now serving at the federal level, and a few have done all three levels. So some just want to represent their area and work through the levels. For myself, I was always interested in federal politics, coming from a business background. The two main, core responsibilities of a federal government is to keep the community safe, but also make sure that we get the economic settings right so everyone can flourish. So having that background in business and doing an MBA and having a real passion for the economy and economics is why I wanted to go to the federal level. But also, really importantly, I didn't want to just run at the federal level. I always wanted to run for the seat of Casey. So I'm a third generation local. My family came from Italy in the 50s and had a farm in Sylvan, which is about 10, 15 kilometres from here. And so to represent the community where my family have spent their whole life was really important to me.
You've spoken about, I remember hearing that or reading that as well in your opening speech, first speech, of just the importance of a community, you know what I mean? And I guess these days it does feel like we're drifting further away from that, where a community looks after each other and builds each other up. So I don't know where the question is. Do you feel like you're a beneficiary or a good product of that, sense of community? Yeah,
absolutely. And I feel lucky to have grown up in this area because the Yarra Valley, the Dandenongs, the electorate of Casey has a strong community feel. A lot of towns, like I grew up in Yarra Glen, I played cricket in Hillsville, and those townships have a real bond and connection. Talking to some colleagues and, people I know that live in the suburbs, they feel a bit less of that connection. Although I would...
Or like the suburban sprawl that we have.
Suburban sprawl, and you're not necessarily as connected around, you might play footy in one suburb, but then you go to school in another one. Whereas if you live in Hillsville, generally you'll play footy and cricket at the Hillsville Footy and Cricket Club. You'll go to Hillsville High School. You've probably got your part-time job at Coles. So then you run into the same people. Whereas if you're in, I'll pick a suburb, Blackburn, you might play footy for Blackburn, but you go to high school in Mitcham. Yeah. And so you got different people coming from different areas. But that sense of community connection has to continue to thrive, and supporting volunteers to give back to community is a challenge we face. And the big debate about social media, and we're sort of more connected than ever, but
feels so much more isolated.
Yeah, but less connected at a personal, social level.
So what gave you that spark, that itch, that push, that drive to go for the seat?
Yeah. So it's a really interesting one. I've always had an interest and a passion for politics. I remember in grade 6, we went up to Canberra for our annual trip, and there was questions being asked about who the Prime Minister was, and I knew all the answers. I think the point when I got to knowing who the Trade Minister was, I think that's when the teachers and the guide was this guy.
Take him to trivia night.
Yeah, sense of pride. I got grade 6 graduation. I got awarded, the best question answerer from the field trip. So, but I remember you have that moment when you sort of grade 6, you think that what you're interested in and what you think is how everyone thinks. So I thought it was weird that no one else knew that Tim Fischer was the Trade Minister. So I've always had an interest, but then if I really look at one of the key lessons I learned growing up from my mum, so I grew up from sort of grade 5, grade 6, mum and dad separated, so mum raised the 5 of us by herself, and there was an issue in the local community in Yarra Glen about, we went to Mount Lilydale Mercy College, a local Catholic high school in the area here in Lilydale, and we were getting a free bus and they wanted to stop us getting the free bus and start to have to pay. So if you think about a single mum, 5 kids at high school, $4 or $5 a day, it's a lot of money. It adds up every day. So she and a group of parents started to advocate, ran a campaign, engaged with the state government at the time, and they were able to reverse that change. And so there are kids today that are still using the free bus because of her actions 25, 30, 20, 25 years ago. You don't probably realise it at the time, but when you're a young teenager, quite impressionable, that still sticks with me as an example of how community can activate and make a difference. And you're looking back, I've always had a desire to serve. I was on the local Suburban soccer club committee at 18, 19. I'd played there my whole junior career. Was the founding chair of the Lilydale Township Action Group. So I've always been one of those people that has wanted to give back. And so I guess seeing that, you sort of combine you want to serve for a community that you love and an interest in politics. Well, it feels like one of the best ways to do that is in Parliament. So those kind of 3 things coming together led to the opportunity.
So in a way, your mum's activism and the way she, pushed within the community was a bit of a pushing for, like a driving force for you?
Yeah, absolutely. Because it showed me, it showed that our democracy works.
Yeah.
It showed that a community group that's passionate about an issue that makes enough noise can make a difference. And that, not always, but the government listened. And that's, pure democracy. We sometimes forget how special that is. And then the ripple effect of the hundreds of thousands, maybe the thousands of lives, just realising But if you think over 15 to 20 years, Mount Lilydale, while it's an independent school, it's not a high fee paying school. So there's a lot of families that probably couldn't afford to pay for the bus. And so the benefit to those families over decades because of the actions of a group of people 25 years ago, I mean, that's what Australia's built on. People, as they say, planting a tree that they'll never see the shade of. So that was, foundational in who I am. And a lot of these lessons you look back on and realise you don't quite realise it at the time.
You mentioned that in your speech as well. It's just like, if only I knew, or could appreciate, Mum, what you did,
And I say that I think most that seminal moment I found going from not having children to then being a father, and once you have your own children, you get a greater appreciation for what your parents have sacrificed and done for you. And I mean, that's why I sort of mentioned that in my first speech. In many ways, you take your parents for granted until you become a parent yourself.
My God, I was a turd.
Yeah,
I should have been better
correct.
To it.
Absolutely. So,
because where are you, middle child or oldest? Or?
One of 5 kids. I'm second eldest.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Yeah. So came out fighting for attention from day one, just like my second child.
I guess because we've touched on the education front. I think you said in the speech as well, it's like education was foundational, right? What moment made you realise that knowledge could be the pathway for something bigger?
Yeah, well, it's interesting. I was fortunate in a way that going through high school in my generation, so I graduated 2002. And
I was about to say congratulations.
Yeah, I know, exactly. But the amazing part, so back in the late 90s, early 2000s, there was this real push that university was what you needed to do and where you needed to go. Yeah.
It was still that when I was when I finished at grade 2011, it was like that.
It was like that, like,
if you don't go to uni, we don't care about you as a school.
And I've spoken about this in Parliament, and we're starting to move back the other way because we've got a skills shortages, and it's this lag effect of for 20 years we've told every young person, university is success.
And now we're overqualified or overeducated.
Yeah, and we don't have enough tradies.
Yeah, the houses aren't getting built.
Correct.
Where's the tradies? Yeah.
And so I'm fortunate that was academia was, sort of white collar worker was my path. Mm-hmm. I feel sorry, and I've got some friends that have gone through this that were more trades sort of based people, but they went to uni and then became mature age apprentices, and now they're tradies.
Yeah.
because that's what we were told. So
so they had to do that big U-turn.
Yeah.
And re-educate themselves.
Okay. And we're moving like vet courses, getting out. But I think it's really important we have these conversations and say, being a plumber, my best friend's a Sparky. He was lucky. His dad was a mechanic, so he didn't have, and his family didn't pressure him that you have to go to university. But he finished year 12, did his apprenticeship, now runs his own business, employs 3 or 4 people. So happy. And I always say that if we'd swapped and I'd become the Sparky and he'd gone to university, we both would have been miserable. And so having the conversation with young people, something I'm really passionate about, to say there's no journey that is the right path to success. Your success will be different to someone else's. I think we as leaders need to continue to have that conversation with young people. But what happened was, so I finished high school, went to university. I actually did an arts degree, majoring in politics because I had the interest, but I didn't really know what I was going to do career wise. So
it was just that interest, especially since grade 6.
Yeah. So I did that, did the arts degree, loved that, and then like all great things in life, coincidentally ended up in sales because I was playing cricket at a local club, and the owner of the business saw something in me and offered me a job, and and that led to
it comes back to that community thing.
Yeah, community connection, and that led to my time at Yarra Valley Snack Foods. Yeah, so I don't know if I quite answered the question. I went on a bit of a
it's a good tangent.
I went on a tangent.
I like the point you said about where you've got to at least normalise or let young people know it's okay to not be forced into a direction.
Correct.
And it's their education. Your parents are paying for it and there's expectations they've got. But, you are free to make those choices of where you want to go.
Correct.
And pursue those interests.
Yeah, and success is different for everyone. So it's important we emphasise that for people. And how you end up as a politician, there's no correct path to follow into politics, which is one of the great things about our democracy as well.
Yeah. I think I heard there was one of the members, can't remember what side he was on, it doesn't matter, but like he said that he was an older fella. He didn't even finish high school and he still was able to, So, if you want to go into politics, there's nothing stopping you.
No, correct, 100%. And what I love, these last 2 weeks have been really, really interesting that we've had all the first speeches. So on all sides of politics, there's been a lot. There's always a lot. This time they did it a bit differently, and normally they sort of spread them out over maybe a few months. This time they did all of them within the first 2 weeks, which was quite good to sit and listen.
It's been good listening for me at work.
Yeah, you'd enjoy it. Yeah,
I try to listen to them all. Yeah,
and you'd have picked this up. Everyone's got their own story, but in a lot of ways, some of the speeches they really just match the electorate that they're in. And I remember last term listening to some first speeches, and there was a first speech from an independent, a Teal independent, gave their speech straight after a Nationals MP gave his speech. Completely different speeches about different topics, different delivery style. But I remember sitting there thinking, both deserve to be here. Both are representing their communities, and you could tell they were from their communities and really of their community.
Yeah.
But if you picked both of them up and put them in the other one, they wouldn't succeed because it's just so different. And that's the beauty of our democracy, but also the challenge. We're such a big country with so many diverse ideas and thoughts. But the fact that you can come from a community in far north Queensland or inner city, Sydney or Melbourne, and you have the equal voice within the parliament is something we need to treasure and protect.
Yeah. Thank you, Australian democracy.
Yes.
Yeah. So I guess we touched base on that earlier with the storms recently. What have you learned about local government partnerships and with the national national readiness for disaster and all that? Was there something to be learned from that, devastating week or months afterwards as well? You know what I mean?
Yeah, June storms and also Black Saturday. They were the
one in 2009 that
that I lived through as well. So they're the.
I didn't want to push that on you, but you brought it up.
Yeah, happy to talk about it. I spoke about it in my first speech, and again a seminal moment in my life. And
I think you said it was. What is it? It was a big defining moment for you, especially the fires.
Yeah, the fires were in particular. For two reasons. If we start with Black Saturday, and they both link together about government response, but Black Saturday was devastating for our community, and I've shared this story a couple of times on the anniversaries. But my wife Rachel and I got caught in the fires, leaving Yarra Glen to go to Lilydale, and there was actually a moment where our car got engulfed by flames, and we genuinely. We thought we were going to die in that car, and as I was going, about 150 kilometres down a straight road without being able to see anything because of smoke and flames, and all I could hear was Rachel telling me that she loved me as she was crying. So, not fun to live through that, but the unintended benefit, to be honest, is that when you think you're going to die, you take stock of your life and you go, well, actually, am I living to my best potential, my full potential? And it was a real moment where, if I was really honest with myself, I was working, we were renting, we were saving for a house, but I was probably cruising a little bit, early 20s. And it really kicked me into gear to go, no, hang on, you've been given another chance. And there is a lot of survivor guilt, like when 173 people in not just our community, but pass away, and you're like, well, they didn't make it, and you did. Live in honor, do something with it, live in honor of them, and just live your best life. And so that was a really tough time individually, and
to process all that.
To process it all, and I was. Without going through the whole thing, I was driving, and so you have a level of like, I'd put the person I love into this dangerous situation, and then you see on the news. I remember seeing a road with burnt out cars, and just broke down because, again, reminder that could have been us. So that makes you realise that you've got to make the most of every day. We all think, I think, as younger people. We'll live till 90 or 100. Like, we all have this weird benchmark of 100, and that really made me realise that they don't necessarily get a full life, make the most of it. And the other thing I saw and lived through was just that amazing community spirit,
after the fires, after
the storms. Everyone rallies together to help each other, whether it's locals, you've got the government, you've got different communities coming to help out, and that's really powerful. It's one of the great things about our country, and we saw it in Black Saturday, days and months after. We see every time we have a disaster, communities rally and people come in to support. But we need to make sure at a governmental level, one thing I'm really passionate about is doing as much as we can to prevent or to make sure when disasters come, we're as prepared as possible. And the reality is there will always be natural disasters. There always has, there always will be. So how do we make sure we can respond as quick as possible and support people as quickly as possible, and make sure those that need help get it, but that we don't really get caught up in unnecessary bureaucracy and adding unnecessary stress in such a stressful time for people.
Yeah. I guess on that, do you find yourself advocating for it a bit within the government or within the party or whatever?
Yeah.
To try and put in preventative measures or...
Yeah, absolutely. And without talking too much about the last campaign, the coalition committed money to communications, resilience, to make sure that our phone towers in the area were a lot stronger for emergencies, because
especially further rural areas.
Rural areas, the Dandenongs, the Upper Yarra, a completely different sort of level of challenge. But the storms of June of 2021, we lost power in our house, had trees across the driveway, and we had no power for about 8 to 10 hours, but we also couldn't call out because the phone lines were down.
Yeah.
And we realised and had the conversation that if something had happened, if a tree had fallen, because we got trees around our house, and if a tree had fallen across the house, we actually wouldn't have had the ability to call for help.
In a real
emergency, and others were in that situation where they needed help and they couldn't get it. But again, there's so many stories of volunteers, CFA, going out at 2 or 3 in the morning to help people, to make sure that people were safe. We couldn't call out, but the CFA were literally walking house to house on our street to check in on people to make sure they were okay. So that's why I'm really passionate about how do we make sure that the communications resilience is there so residents can call for help, but also our CFA volunteers are residents. So if they can't call, they've got the pager system, but they need to be able to talk to each other and coordinate in these disasters, and they deserve the very best to make sure they're as safe as possible while they're keeping the community safe.
So better funding for them.
Better funding. I'm really passionate about making sure that the CFA, SES, police and ambulance as well have got the resources they need, because they're the front line of keeping us safe. They're there when the things go wrong and when we don't expect it. So we've got to support them to make sure they're there when we need them. And then what do you do around disaster resilience, the roads, those kind of things? How do we make sure they're as sustainable as possible?
Any ideas?
The unfortunate reality is most of it comes down to money.
Yeah.
And that sort of goes back to this.
To put into the research for what can be improved? Because you're not a road expert or an infrastructure expert. No. So it's not like I can go, hey, off the top of your head.
Yeah, we do know sealing dirt roads is a way to, because in storms, in rain, those dirt roads, they
just wash away.
Whereas
I used to live in a flood prone area. It's just gone,
So if they're bitumen, they're a lot more secure for the trucks, for the CFA trucks to get up, ambulances to get up. So sealing roads is one tangible way to do it. But just to make this point around funding, I mean, ultimately more money helps. However, it doesn't matter.
But implemented the right way.
Because
I remember there's also another thing that you said in your opening speech of like education. There's been billions thrown at it.
Yes.
But if it's not implemented the right way.
Yes.
You're just throwing money into a hole.
Correct. Yeah. And that was, something I'm really passionate about. We shouldn't judge success just on how much money we spend. Like education is the example. It's not about whether we spend 10 or 20 billion. It should be about, are we delivering better outcomes for people? Yeah. And that's the ultimate goal. And we should spend what we need to make sure we're delivering those outcomes. And that was the question about education back at the start. Like education is that opportunity for those that don't have a lot to create a life for themselves and then build the foundations, but delivering on those tangible outcomes is that's what we're here for. Like, as my mum likes to say, the world is paved with good intentions, but good intentions are nice. Improving people's lives in a tangible, practical way is what we should be focused on.
Yeah, she should run.
Yeah, she's a very smart lady.
Smart lady. So you've come into this position, federal seat of Casey. What are some of the toughest parts of that journey, or some of the challenges you've had to face, or sacrifices? I know you mentioned earlier of like you're away half the year in Canberra.
Yep.
Or wherever you may get sent. What's some of the realities that go misunderstood or not known?
So for me, the hardest part of being a member of parliament is time away from my family. I'm very lucky. I've got two beautiful children, 9, and my son turns 12 in 10 days, as he was telling me this morning.
It's worth bragging about.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
and my wife carries a heavy load. She says for half the year she's a single mum essentially. I'm in Canberra. I've been in Canberra for the last 2 weeks. You come home for the weekends, so you're away a lot, and I miss a lot of time with them. I miss a lot of. I have a perpetual guilt as. Am I, particularly, I shouldn't, but, my son is 11, 12, becoming a young man. Is he missing the guidance he needs from his father? Is my daughter missing that? You carry that guilt. And then one thing I probably hadn't thought about until we've lived it is, you kind of, you put your hand up knowing you're going to spend half the year in Canberra.
But that reality, you're not, I don't know what it'll be fine.
Yeah. And then when you come home, and I love this, you've got like a lot of events that you've got to go to. So you're actually out a lot of nights. Like most nights when I'm home, I'm out at events, and most weekends. I say this genuinely, and it breaks my heart every time I have to leave home. But every time I'm at a community event or every time I'm in Canberra, I love representing this community. I love being at community events. I'm out tonight at a sponsors night for a footy club, and then off to the country club up at Churnside Park to celebrate their 51st birthday, and they're a not-for-profit that gives back to the community. So I love what I do. It is the greatest opportunity and privilege of my life, giving back to my community, being my community's voice in Canberra. But it comes at a bit of a cost. And I said that in my first speech. I'm well aware because of my experiences that I'm giving up that time, but it drives me and motivates me to make sure I'm making an impact and making a difference. Properly, utilize it, yeah. And I do, I think my kids get to see someone in their father chasing their dream, giving back to the community, hopefully learning some really good experiences and values through what I'm doing. So that's the hardest part. The challenge politically in an electorate like Casey, 2,700 square kilometres. We're here in Lilydale, which is a suburban area. Then you've got the Yarra Valley and the Upper Yarra, which is more farmland, agriculture, regional, rural. The Dandenong Ranges is more national parks and different challenges there. And in the last parliament, we had a redistribution and now got Wonga Park and Christmas Hills and St Andrews and Panton Hill. And they're all unique and diverse areas with unique and diverse challenges. So trying to, the idea that I always say this, the idea in politics that everyone agrees with what you're trying to do doesn't exist, because if there's consensus, then it's not political.
It feels like a common sense for everyone. They're like, we agree on that. Yep.
And the example I use, and I think for people that are looking to enter politics, this is something to think about, because you look at seatbelts. When they were implemented, it was quite controversial, and some people said, "No, well, it's my right to not wear it. It's my car. I'll do what I want." I share that story but now if I, no one would question mandatory seatbelt today because
I feel naked if you're better put this on.
The reality has changed, and we know they save lives. And I share that story at primary schools, which, by the way, is one of the best parts of this job, going to see the kids. And the look on their face, they can't comprehend a world where you just don't wear your seatbelt.
Or bike helmets.
Because that's all they know. And that's a really good example that I like to use, because everything we deal with in politics there's a diversity of opinion, because we're deciding, should we do A and B, and what are the trade-offs and what are the costs? And so how do we balance those trade-offs? And you're never going to have everyone in your community have complete consensus around doing it, because if we've already got complete consensus, it's already been done. Yeah. So understanding that in politics and trying to represent a whole community with diversities of views, it's a good part of the job, but you want everyone to feel like their voice is heard as well.
Yeah. Sort of rings back to being the whip in a sense. You're trying to find that compromise. That's what Parliament is.
Yeah, and understanding my philosophy and my belief, particularly as a party of government, and ultimately you can only achieve anything for your community and for the country and globally if you're in government and you're a party of government. You can achieve in opposition, you can still achieve individual. We've achieved some great wins, saved some funding, still got grants that we can give to community. So you still achieve sort of one-off levels, but talking big fundamental reform that's going to help the country today and into the future. That's obviously a role of government. So you've got to understand what you're fighting for, and then explain the trade-offs to the community, because there's never a perfect fit.
Trying to sell it to them, bring them along, and or at least not
I don't
sell,
like the
but
term
it's more,
sell.
What do I mean? It's, you know what I mean? Like,
it's having a mature conversation. You look back at, and this is sort of something that's interesting we're going through politically with this productivity roundtable that's coming up. Part of the conversation of the 80s and 90s was, we're going to make these changes, and this is going to be the cost, and this is how we will look after and compensate those that have lost something. Mm-hmm. And you've got to be able to understand, again, those trade-offs, and every action has an equal or greater reaction. So when we change something, people are going to potentially win or lose, or at least feel like they're going to win or lose, because generally people find change a little bit uncomfortable.
Yeah. Especially, I don't know, this country loves the status quo.
Yeah.
We're very middle ground. We're like, oh, we like it how it is.
Yeah. I don't know if it's interesting. I think it's most people across the world, there's plenty of studies of people will stay in jobs that they don't like because at least it's what they know, the fear of the unknown. So sometimes it's, that change can be scary for people. Yeah. So having the conversations is a challenging part of politics. But for me, it's the exciting part. How do you implement your values into policies and then communicate those policies and sell them to a degree around how this will benefit the country as well.
Sort of this, maybe not sell, it's more convince them to be brave, you know, not to be scared of change.
Correct. And bring them on the journey of we're doing this because we believe it is in the best interest of the country. And if the country's strong, again, our community is strong here in Casey or any community that you represent.
Yeah. You are away pretty frequently.
Yep.
How do you try to maintain those connections to your community? Again, you go to these events and all that, but is there anything further or a bit more in detail or?
In terms of,
you know, it's not get lost in that Canberra bubble that they threaten you with.
Yeah. Well, I think it's really important. When you're in Canberra, you're still representing the community.
Yeah,
so
always.
Having that understanding.
That's the whole point you have
that's
that
the
job.
whole point. Yeah, you're there to represent the community. I feel very lucky for myself, you know, not just, you know, my wife and children, but my extended family, my cousins or my friends, because I am third generation. My life is this community. All my friends, all my family, my sporting connections, everyone lives here. So I always know everything we're voting on, everything we're doing in Canberra impacts the people that I love. And if it impacts the people I love, it impacts our community. So that keeps me very grounded and connected.
Yeah.
But I'm also a big one on focus. So when you're in Canberra, focus on representing the community as best as possible. Then when you're in the community, focus on being out in the community, listening, engaging, because ultimately
being on the ground,
talking to people, because it's connected.
Mm.
When I'm out talking to people, going to events, you hear what's happening, you get the feedback. Then when you're up in Canberra, a piece of legislation comes up, and it's happened quite a lot. Something will come up and I'll think, well, hang on, this links to this conversation that I had with these people. We just need to have a look at this and raise this and make sure that, you know, should we send it to a committee to make sure there's no unintended consequences? It's a phrase I use a lot in Parliament. Let's not rush this through because, as I said, every action has an equal or greater reaction. You can't predict everything, but can we make sure that we've got it as strong as possible? And that's where the opposition, I passionately believe, has an important role around accountability.
Yeah, so especially I don't know. Yeah, what is it? Sorry, I'm interrupting. But it's just like that's the strength of government.
Yeah.
Especially our healthy democracy is when there is a strong opposition.
Correct.
To voice, because it's at 30% of the country for you guys, 30% for the other guys, and then
and there's that broad in the middle,
So they need to be heard.
Correct. And we need to scrutinise and understand what the government are doing. Mm-hmm. And it's obviously harder in the House of Representatives because by definition the government have the majority, but that's where the Senate becomes really important and is literally the House of Review.
Yeah.
And that's where a lot of the changes and the amendments happen to make sure that we can respect the government's mandate, but can we improve it? And sometimes what they're doing might not be in the best interest of the country, and we've got an obligation to disagree with them on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's how you keep, in my mind, you know, when you're away a lot, you stay connected to your community, because that's the reason I'm up there. The reason I'm away is to be the voice of all the people in Casey that don't have
people I've spoken to, it's like they're your employer.
Yes.
The voters.
Correct.
Your community. You know, they're your boss.
Yep. And you have, for want of a better term, you have a 3-year job interview, and
the whole thing's the interview.
And they judge you at the end of that at a federal level.
True.
They judge you.
That's a good analogy.
Yeah. So they make that decision, and you either have the great honour and privilege to continue to represent them. And I always say, and I say this very openly, I as an individual am not special or great or anything like that. I'm just a person.
Mm-hmm.
However, the role I hold as the member for Casey is a very important role that has responsibilities. It has a level of status as a leader within the community, and I always ensure that I respect and honour the role and the responsibilities and the obligations that the community have given me. I will never take it for granted, and I make sure, and I'm very conscious that every day and every moment I'm representing many different ideals. I'm representing myself, my family, but I'm always representing our community, and I want to make sure that our community is proud of me.
Yeah. Good. I like the analogy. I really like that. The whole thing's the interview. It's not just the election period. No, that's good.
Yeah.
I guess we'll just go to the big one, the last one.
Well, the big one.
That everyone, I seem to get big compliments for this question. If you could go back to the moment you first considered entering politics.
Yeah.
What one piece of advice would you give yourself and why?
Well, that is a good question.
Yeah. Good.
It's bring me back to it, but it's a good question because it's one. It's one I used to. When you're with leaders or you with things that go, any questions? The question I used to always ask senior people when I had an opportunity was, looking back on the start of your career, what one piece of advice would you give yourself? That used to be the question I asked. So,
okay, good.
So if I look back on when I was elected, what one thing? Give me the question again.
Yeah,
so I get it. I want to honour the question.
Before the moment before you even considered entering, what piece of advice would you give yourself and why?
Yeah, I would go back and I would
time machine, DeLorean. What's up,
and
mate?
make sure. And I feel fortunate that I didn't do this consciously, but I'm doing it now. Really understand deeply why you're running, why you want to be a member of parliament or a local councillor, or what you're doing, why are you doing that? If it's because it's about ego and you want to be the person at the front talking,
probably the wrong job. Yeah.
If it's because, and the reason it's so important to have your why and know passionately the reasons you want to be a member of parliament is because it is the greatest single honour of my life. But it's tough. It's hard. As I said, you're away, you're working a lot, you're always on show, plenty of people wanting to pull you down. Don't have a thin skin. Welcome to social media.
I guess actually briefly, that was that question. Sorry. On there is a lot of criticism. How do you deal with that?
Yeah. So having that why, having that sense of purpose is really important to dealing with the negativity.
It gives you that backbone?
Yeah, it gives you the backbone, but I'm not going to lie. It's hard. It's very quickly. The way I deal with it, I'll go to that and then I'll give a quick story.
Yeah, sorry.
No, that's right. No, but the way I deal with it is understanding that it's not personal.
Yeah.
That when people are criticised, and I've had some really horrible comments on social media, and had a phone conversation with someone that told me that on the phone to me personally that all politicians should be shot.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, oh, well, hang on, let me stop you there. I'm a father. So you have some really confronting conversations. It wasn't, to be clear, that it wasn't a death threat. It was a throwaway line in a way. But I'm like, hang on, do you realise what you've just said to me?
Yeah. I have your number here, mate.
Yeah, yeah. Sure? I'm calling anyway.
Anyway.
But you have a lot of that negativity. I came in and I remember saying to my wife when we discussed, that was the other bit of advice. If you've got a partner or a loved one, have the conversation with them and make sure that you're both prepared for the journey, because it's a partnership. Your wife and your family, or your husband, your children.
And that goes even without politics. It's like that's your partner.
Correct. You got to be on the same page. And in a role like this, they're public. My wife went to the shops the other day and members of the community were stopping and talking to her because as over 3 years, they know who she is. And
could you pass this message to Aaron?
Yeah. She was at the school the other day, and there's a lot of can you raise this with Aaron? So and my cousins will tell you, because they're all Violis as well. They often get hey, what's your cousin doing? Can you tell him this? So they joke and say that they're like my secretaries as well. But that point being, you whatever your support network, your family, understand that they're part of it as well. But I said to my wife, I said, if we do this, you need to understand that around 30% of the population won't like me. Some will hate me just because of the party that I've joined. And I say it's not personal. People see me as a caricature, as you're a liberal, you're X, Y, Z.
Yeah.
Now, just
there's
because
all these assumptive things, just because of
who you are, and politics. It's important what we do, and it's robust because we're discussing different beliefs on how we bring the country forward. I always say we shouldn't discuss the personal. We should focus on the policy and get that differentiation. Don't attack the person, attack and hold to account their ideas. But it's still hard. So just very briefly, went during the campaign, I was in Canberra and we had a lot of signs up and Rachel rang me, my wife, quite upset. She'd been driving the kids to school and there were 3 or 4 signs that they go past and a couple of them had been vandalised. And my daughter said to her, "Oh, Mum, why do these people hate Dad?"
Oh, wow, yeah.
And so, that's that takes a toll on you and your kids are – in saying that, so many people have been so great to my family and to my kids that but that's still hard that your kids think that someone – and again, you explain to them, no, it's not about Dad, it's about politics and that. But, you wish that your kids didn't have to be exposed to something like that.
Yeah,
but, just keep moving forward.
Yeah, okay. So I guess on a practical thing, how do you do that? Just – I guess what you said actually before, it's like remembering that core reason you're doing it, right?
Yeah.
So what's, I guess 2 questions there. What's the practical side of finding that and questioning yourself and finding that core?
Yeah.
And then also how do you sort of gulp it down, the negativity? Yeah. There's kind of 2 questions there.
Yeah. So how do you find your core beliefs? I think and it goes a little bit to that point we were saying about the age of when you come into politics. Like it's a bit of a journey of life. Like I went through Simon Sinek, Find Your Why, the different podcasts and everyone has different motivations. I've always found, and other people have suggested this, it's what gives you energy, like what makes you excited. And the start, my team who keep me where I need to be and on time. And that's the other thing, you're so lucky as an MP to have great office and great staff that serve the community. But I get my energy from people. So I'm very fortunate that if I go to a community event, again, it uplifts me because I love talking to people, meeting people, hearing their stories. So as you experience more things in life, you learn what gives you energy and what do you love to do, and then what do you really do because you have to, because we all have things in life that we just have to do.
I've got to brush my teeth.
Yeah, exactly. So once you understand that, then you can understand, is this what I want to do? But it's ultimately, for me, this is serving our community. But if you want to enter politics because you have some grandiose idea that you want to be at the front, as I said, giving the speech, you've got to do all that as a member of parliament, but you should do that in service of something bigger than you. Yeah. Otherwise, I don't think it's sustainable for people.
You don't last long.
No.
If it's me or no one else sort of thing. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Bring people together and everyone has different ways of doing that. In a weird way, COVID was a really challenging experience. I was
going to say that because you said you're people fueled, and I'm a bit like that too. And if there's not, you're not bouncing off anyone, you kind of get a bit strung up, and you're like,
look, exercise was so important for me. My wife again was very good at, and having the right partner in life is so important in life, but in politics as well. But she's like, you need to go for a run, get out and get some exercise because I'm a people person. She's a little bit more introverted. So COVID was
my partner's the same.
Yeah. She's like, so you got to balance that out. Yeah. But I did a lot, like you actually have a lot of time to slow down. I feel fortunate in a weird way that you could slow down, reflect, read a lot. I love to read. I was listening to podcasts, really reflecting at that age of sort of 35, 36, where I'd been and where did I want to go. And the thing I would also say about politics for anyone that's interested in getting involved is you can't choose your timing either. And you've got to be prepared if you do have an interest in politics and becoming a member of parliament that it might never happen because timing becomes something that you can't control. And in my example, I'd been involved in the local Liberal Party and interested in politics. And then it was, mid-2021, I think June 2021. No, July. June was the storms. July 2021 when Tony Smith announced his retirement and then the pre-selection happened for the Liberal Party. However, Tony got into politics relatively young in his early 30s and retired. He's still, as we were speaking this week, I'm very lucky to have him as a
he's a bit of a mentor.
He's a mentor for me. Yeah, he's a great support for me. And he retired relatively young from politics at 55. So if Tony had spent another 10 years in Parliament, then where's my life journey at? So, if there's people listening that are like, I want to be a politician, understand why you want to do it. Yeah. And, I would say having a broad experience outside of politics, just life experience is really important.
Stay connected to the real world.
But understanding that there's so many things in life and in politics you can't control. And having Tony retire was that was the moment of going, okay, people always asked me, when did you know you were going to become a politician? I said, well, I never knew until I became one. And they go, what do you mean? Well, I said, well, I didn't know I was going to run for the seat of Casey until Tony retired, because if Tony had, again, continued for another 10 years, my life might have moved in a different direction in that decade.
Yeah.
So when he retired, it was the right time to run for pre-selection.
Yeah.
But then when I was pre-selected, I had a 6-8 month campaign. I didn't know I was going to win until I won. So you can have an interest and passion, but there's lots of great people that are really smart, that work hard, have good connections, do everything right, and they don't become a member of Parliament. And the reason I share that, if people aspire to be in politics, is to understand that there's so many things you can't control. So don't put your self-worth in, I need to become, I think it's a lesson for life, I need to become X to be successful, because if it's an external thing you can't control,
it's just going to be a lot of disappointment.
It's going to be a lot of disappointment.
Yeah.
Live your life, live every day to the best of your ability. I always say, don't worry about the next 5 years. Worry about the next 5 minutes. Live the next 5 minutes as well as you can. You stack enough good 5 minutes in, the next 5 years will look after themselves.
Preach, sister. No, man. I guess, Aaron, thank you for your time. We'll cut it there. Yeah, thank you again.
Great to be with you. Appreciate it.
Sweet. Too easy.